Thank you both. That put us in this mode of getting things out of our lap and letting the chair support us. I was, in preparation for this talk today, leafing through some old daily words from the 1940s and the 1950s. And this sweet little thing came out called The Activity of God by Sig Paulson. So we're going to use a piece of this in our meditation today, but first we want to close our eyes if you're comfortable. Begin taking some deep breaths in and letting them go. Just feel your body relaxing as you're allowing that breath to slow you down so that you can be totally present here and now. To receive these words. These words that are life-giving, life-supporting. These words of truth. Truth about who you are and who you came to be. So I'm going to read it twice so that you can really take it in as your own words. And then we're going to sit in the silence and let them fall all over you into your heart. The activity of God is the only power at work in my mind, my heart, and my life. All false beliefs, all negative appearances are dissolved right now by the loving, forgiving action of God. I am whole, strong, and free as God created me to be. The activity of God is the only power at work in my mind, my heart, and my life. All false beliefs, all negative appearances are dissolved right now by the loving, forgiving action of God. I am whole, strong, and free as God created me to be. In the silence. These powerful words can bless you in your life, and it can be used like a prescription for those that you are wanting to uplift also. We know this because when we speak words of truth, those words that come from our heart, from the Christed beingness within us. We know they hold a mighty power and a mighty strength, because as these divine beings, that power emanates in and through us as expressions of God. And so our words are powerful. The emotions that we feel with the words that we express into the universe carry immense power and strength. And so we know to choose rightly how we bring our words into expression, because we know we are powerful manifestors. And so we choose this day to know and claim that that activity of God in us, as us, and through us will continue to speak words into our lives to lift us and to lift those who we are concerned with. This is part of our principle 3 of unity, and it's part of our principle 4 of unity as well, that we create what we think and focus on, and that we know prayer works. And so we're grateful this day for this opportunity to hear Sic Paulson's words that were written for Daily Word many, many years ago. We claim it, we take it as ours, and we feel gratitude in our hearts for these magnificent teachings that bring us so much. And now, as we begin to bring our focus back into the room, whenever you're ready, just open your beautiful eyes. So I've been excited about today and about talking about Daily Word. So it's not like a typical sermon for me today, because we're going to highlight all about Daily Word today. But the story that I wanted to start out sharing with you is the very first time that I traveled to Unity Village as a student, decades ago now. I had already heard that if you would go into the library at Unity Village, that right below the entrance to the archives, there was a little secret bookcase there, and there was a printer sitting right over here. So I could still see myself going in, and all of the daily words from the beginning of time were there in a bound book by years. So you could look up your birthday, and then you could open it up and you could put it on the printer, and you could print what word was there when you were born. And it was so precious and so special. You know, I brought it back and I shared it. And then subsequent trips, because I was in a big church and I had a lot of friends in my Texas church, I would get their birthdays and I would look it up for them. And then I would bring all these pieces of paper home with everybody's birth date on it, because it was such an exciting thing. And of course now, you know, everything is digitalized and you can just go onto Daily Word, you know, and look it up. You don't have to go to their place physically and do that. But the other thing I wanted to share with you was something sweet that happened recently when we were conducting the celebration of life for Pat Bremen. One of the things that her daughters had asked, she had 2 daughters, and they wanted me to read the Daily Word when she was born. and the daily word when she made her transition, which was Groundhog Day. And I want to tell you, the bookends of her 2 daily words, I mean, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. And this was part of her graveside service. It wasn't part of her regular service. They were trying to make that particular ceremony very special. And believe me, it was very special. And it suited her like absolutely to a T. And so I was so touched by that. And I'm surprised. I guess it's because Pat raised her daughters in unity with Daily Word. And so it was part of the family. They read it together. It was part of their routine. They shared it, So Daily Word has been in many people's families for generations now, that we're coming up on 100 years tomorrow. So we have an affirmation. We're still on the last Sunday, and so we've been doing this theme of protection. So let's say this for the last time together, our affirmation: the Spirit of God ever enfolds and protects me. And so one of the things that, Unity is noted for is our prayer for protection, of course, and we say it every single Sunday. But I don't know if you knew much about the history of it. In silent unity during the 1940s, when things got kind of hairy, World War II was going on, things were starting and unfolding, people kept calling for prayer. And so they called upon James Dillett Freeman to write this prayer for protection. And so it has been in a couple of different versions, but in 1941, I think, was when the one that we most are familiar with. But what I wanted to tell you was I picked up a couple of the bookmarks at Unity Village this past week when I was there, and it reminded me that in 1969, Buzz Aldrin carried the prayer for protection with him on the Apollo 11 moon landing mission. And so they have a little commemorative bookmark about how Unity took its message of prayer for protection to the universe, right? I just thought that was so special. So tomorrow, all over the world, we're celebrating 100 years of Daily Word. The very first one was in July the 1st, 1924. And so Unity created a little video, and I wanted to share with you, there are no words. You have to read the words, so pay attention. I know. Austin, Texas. Isn't that awesome? Little history in a nutshell. But you know what I think about when I watched that video for the first time? It was like, I wonder what the Fillmores would think about how much things have evolved and grown, and would they could they even imagine that what they started all those years ago had turned into this worldwide movement? And on top of that, if you think about it, Frank Whitney had an idea. Frank Whitney just wanted the people who sat there and listened to the phones and prayed with people 24/7. He wanted them to be inspired every day when they got out of bed. That's all it was one man had a divine idea, and look what has come of that. You see, that's how powerful we are. Only one person can make a tremendous difference in the world. So I know that a lot of people, that have Daily Word don't even know that there's a Unity Church attached to it. A lot of people in a lot of religions use the Daily Word. They don't know anything about Unity. So I was just curious if anybody in here today had a story about how Daily Word came to you, and how maybe we could share that. Bob's got a microphone. How you came to Daily Word, or how Daily Word brought you to Unity.
Yeah, I was thinking about it when you said it. Growing up in Mexico in a Catholic family, my grandmother used to get, it was called La Palabra Diaria. And she would read it to me every day, thinking it was a Catholic magazine. And I always kept this, and I have said it to a few friends. There was a particular one when I was maybe 14 or so in the 60s that was called Without Words. And it was a way to just express your love without words. And from that moment on, until the day that she passed, she would go like this. And that was her Without Words, that she loved me, though. It was so sweet.
Oh, you had little perfect hand signal. That's fabulous. Yeah. Anybody else? Shayna?
I actually came to Unity. I was doing a caretaking job that somebody had given me, and I was taking care of this little old lady, and she read the Daily Word every day. And she was one of the founders of this church. Her name was Alta. And I had no idea about Unity, but I saw how, I think she was like 95. It was the end of her life. And she didn't go to any doctors. She didn't take any medications. She did a vibration. She laid on like this vibration board and read her Daily Word and did her prayers, her Unity prayers. And I thought, if this is how she is at the end of her life, like, I want to be like her.
Oh.
So, and she was one of the founders of the church.
Sweet.
She started it, so that's how I ended here.
I'm so grateful that she shared Daily Word with you. Isn't that amazing? Anybody else? We have time for one more. Anybody else have a story? Ralph has a story. Tell us, Ralph.
Well, I've been collecting all my old Unity all my daily words, because when I'm really struggling with something that's just giving me trouble, it's really neat to go back and look at the monthly summaries and get the themes and say, this theme, that theme, this theme, that's just what the doctor ordered from what I'm struggling with. And so I got, my message is simply, the old daily words are just as good as the current ones, because you've got a history and a resource that you can go to for almost any trouble.
That's right. That's right. Thank you so much for sharing. So I brought a few from the 40s and 50s. If you want to look, they're out in the community room. Tracy set up a little thing so you could look at how different they are, how much they've changed and how much they've grown. So thank you for sharing. I wanted to share another story that I read about someone how Daily Word impacted them. And I was just visiting with her at Unity Village. Reverend Sandra Campbell is the director of the Unity Urban Ministerial School in Detroit, and she had a great story to share. She and her husband, Phil, when they had two small children, had to leave Kansas City because he was in the Marines and he got stationed in Maryland. And so they had to load up and go. And this was like, like in the early 70s. And she was had to wait 3 months or so before her job there was going to start. And things were a little bit tight. And so she wanted to really inspire her husband because he had to work with new people. They had to get used to new everything. Every time you move, Cindy knows. Every time you move, you have to get used to new everything. And so she took it upon herself. She had one copy of Daily Word. She was new to Unity, but she was so inspired by it. And so every day she copied off the message because they only had peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and tuna sandwiches and stuff like that. So that's what she was packing in his lunchbox every day. But she would copy off the Daily Word and she would put it in his lunchbox. She really wanted Phil to be inspired, as he went into this new position with the Marine Corps. So a few weeks later, they were celebrating the Marines' birthday or something, November the 10th. And it was when they were having an open house at the base, and she was supposed to go and meet all of his colleagues. And so she was a little nervous about it, but she showed up there, and the gunnery sergeant was just like, oh, Miss Campbell, come on in. She was like, wow, this is great. They know who I am. This is pretty amazing. And so they took her in, and then she saw his desk. She walked over to his desk and she looked, and every single one of those Daily Words was under a plate of glass on top of his desk in order, in numerical order of the day that they had come in. And I wanted to read you what she said. They had been reading Daily Word every day when Philip opened his lunchbox. While he never said a word about it, I knew he was proud of how that simple gesture helped him jumpstart their day. She closes by saying, "This little book has kept me going and gotten me and my family through some tough times." Isn't that a great story? Oh my God, I thought that was a great story. So I want to read you the very first ever Daily Word from July the 1st, 1924. Now you'll notice it's a lot different now than it was then because we are, of course, growing in consciousness. This is Frank Whitney's very first pinned message. God in me is my light and my understanding. God, who commanded the light to shine out of darkness, hath shined in our hearts to give the light of knowledge. The earth shall be full of the knowledge of Jehovah. The truth that God is the Father of man does away with the oft-proclaimed presumption that it is impossible for the finite to understand the infinite. He quoted Charles Fillmore from Christian Healing. In order to have spiritual understanding, man must first realize that he has the capacity for it. When one acknowledges that it is natural and right for man to have full knowledge of the infinite, he is but confirming his own ability to enjoy infinite understanding. Man is the manifestation of God within and in his likeness, is all-wise and all-knowing. To believe in the real presence of God as divine mind in you is to identify yourself with all light, all knowledge. Man is primarily mind and is necessarily unlimited mentality. He takes his God-given dominion and power first through consciousness and consequently must have full possession of all truth. Wow. Begin today to rise out of the belief that by nature you are limited in understanding. Never think or say anything is too difficult for you to comprehend. Think at all times of man as capable of knowing all truth. Learn to rely upon the light of God within to make clear whatever you wish to know. There was no Bible verse in the beginning of that. So I took it upon myself to pick one that I thought was fitting for today, because you know we always have scripture metaphysically interpreted. So I picked this scripture about celebration from Acts 13, verse 51 and verse 52. So they shook the dust off their feet in protest against them and went to Iconium. And the disciples were filled with joy and with the Holy Spirit. So think about that, kicking off the dust of your shoes, kicking off the reality or the real world or the relative world, kicking off the material, the stuff that doesn't matter, settling in on the truth of who you are and knowing the truth that you are the beloved of God. It's about affirming the I am consciousness. Iconium is about the I am image and likeness of God that you are. So it is starting with knowing that God in you is expressing as you and through you always. So we're celebrating this day to shake off the relative world and step into our living our truth as divine beings made in the image of likeness of God. We release any limiting held beliefs that we can't do something or be something or have something. We shake that off and claim the truth that we can manifest our heart's desires if we do the work. So I want to tell you a little bit more about Frank Whitney, because I learned some really interesting things in this book. It's just chocked full of all kinds of information. He was born in Kansas City, get this, the year that Unity started, 1889. You can't make this stuff up. He started out as a dentist, and he practiced at a dentist for a number of years, but then he came to work at Silent Unity in 1915. Then he was dean of the correspondence school. Now you have to understand that when the Fillmores started this, there wasn't any technology like there is now. If somebody wanted to learn about Unity teachings, they had to write to the school. The school sent them the correspondence material. They studied it and sent it back and got graded. Right? And so it was a long process to go through and learn and grow in Unity, but that's the only way they could teach students outside of Kansas City. So he stayed there until he started Daily Word in 1924. He also wrote 4 books while he was the editor. He was May Rowland's first husband. May Rowland ran Silent Unity for 55 years. She's known by Rowland, not by Whitney. So she was Miss Whitney before she was Miss Rowland. Her 55 years she served as the head of Silent Unity. So much history, so much. So what I wanted to tell you about was convention this year for me was very special because it was on the grounds of Unity Village, and it's never been on the grounds of Unity Village. We go there for an opening reception, then we go back to a hotel. But this time, we got to spend all day, every day at Unity Village, and we got to eat in the inn and have wonderful meals together, and it was just like, it took me back to the 90s when I was taking classes there. So it was really wonderful. And what happened on Monday, the very first day, is that we have licensing and ordination ceremony. And what I want to tell you is it took all afternoon because 72 people got acknowledged and went across the stage. I mean, they did every licensed teacher, every minister, and the bunch of people from Nigeria were ordained. Unity is growing in our world and moving forward in ways that I had no idea. There were all kinds of certificate programs where people are taking advanced metaphysics and things like that, and just growing and learning in their understanding of these teachings. And so it's like, you think you're done, but you're never really done. You know, you can keep studying and keep learning and keep growing. I just think it's wonderful. So I want to talk about how unity went global. In the beginning, the people who were privy to the unity truth teachings, they would carry the daily words and things across the continents. And so they took the pamphlets to the troops, you know, they took them to different countries, carried the daily word, and took them on all kinds of foreign soil. And the sharing of this little booklet stirred interest. It brought comfort for people in unsettling times. Much of the work was, we would call missionaries, right? But they weren't really out there proselytizing. They were just sharing the information. If anybody wanted it, they could pick it up. Well, today's missionaries are called affiliates. And so those people volunteer their time and the use of their own resources to reprint and distribute Daily Word. So what Unity does is they give them a digital file, and then they take it, and they can translate it, they can do whatever they want to with it, but they print it in their country and make it available for the people there. Because affiliates are self-supporting, their ability to translate and produce a magazine can change. On its 100th anniversary, the magazine is being distributed in English, German, Portuguese, Spanish, and reaching more than 100 countries. The powerful messages tucked away inside the 80 pages we know as the bi-monthly daily word encompass our world through the dedication of volunteers and affiliates and ordinary people. Today, Daily Word has traveled throughout the world on the wings of love. And as it said in the presentation in the video, that messages of hope takes them into prisons, into hospices, to hospitals, to Braille, free of charge for people, all by people's donations. So there were only like 10 actual editors in the whole 100 years of the magazine so far. And so Frank Whitney started it, and of course Teresa Burton is our editor now, and each one has brought their unique vision and perspective to it, contributing to its evolution. Their dedication to their craft and unwavering commitment to the Unity mission of providing spiritual guidance has been instrumental in the magazine's long history and impact. So what's happening is there's one more celebration that's happening at Unity Village. If you want to go to Unity Village and be part of the Fillmore Festival, it's happening August the 22nd through the 25th on the grounds. They're going to have leading metaphysicians from the Unity movement speak the truth principles that have been taught in Daily Word throughout the years, and it gives you an opportunity to enjoy the beautiful grounds, the campus, visit with new friends, old friends, do like me, go to the archives, see all the wonderful things there, and you can travel there and enjoy so much. Now, today, the next 100 years, what is it going to look like? What is Daily Word going to look like 100 years from now? We don't know, but today we can tell you that these messages are moving and into a new direction. The writing declares with increasing consistency that the power and the presence of God is not just in you, it is you. Big change. Big change. We're not surprised that this is not a comfortable direction of growth for some people, for some of their readers. Some of them have been kind of wondering, okay, so like, where is God then, right? And so the answer is simple, if not altogether easy. God is where God has always been, expressing as the light in each mind and the love in each heart. what we hope is that these messages will continue to deepen your spiritual understanding and access your power and your strength that are among your divine gifts that are only yours. So it's a joy to share the history of Daily Word with you today. May Daily Word messages and stories continue to bless and comfort you and inspire you and lead you, and I hope you share it. I hope you get more subscriptions to friends that you know could use it, because we know that we are endowed with this ability to live this truth and to share it also. Okay. Enough preaching, time for a quick joke. So there's this elderly couple, and they're noticing how forgetful they've been getting. So they go to the doctor, and the doctor says, you know what, you're just going to have to start writing things down. So when they get home, the wife says to the husband, I really want a bowl of ice cream. She said, write it down. He said, no, I can remember that. Well, I also want whipped cream on top. He said, okay, I can remember that. She said, no, write it down. He said, no, I can remember that. And she said, well, I want a cherry on top too. So he said, I got it. You want a bowl of ice cream, and you want whipped cream, and you want a cherry on top. I got it. I don't need to write it down. So he goes out to the kitchen, and he's gone like for 30 minutes. And she's like, what on earth? So he comes back in, and he hands her a plate of scrambled eggs and bacon. She looks at the plate, she looks up at him, and she said, where's the toast? I know. She forgot. He forgot, she forgot. They're a cute couple, right? Yeah. So I want to close today with a poem from April 1991 that was in the Daily Word. It's called About Remembering. Remember those times when somebody vowed something could not be done? But one with faith had tackled the task, and faith versus doubt had won. How good to remember when challenges come that within is the place of power. Here prayer begets faith, and here it is, full faith comes into flower. How good to remember this basic truth. Faith in God will always prevail. The future is safely in God's hands. God's purpose cannot fail. That was from Mildred Hoyer. And that's the way it is for today, June 30th. God bless you. Now is the time in our service when we get to give from our good back into this community. So I invite the ushers up and invite you to take your tithes and gifts in your hands, or if you've already given online or you're giving through the Breeze website, we bless these gifts together now. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God, that this is so.